Hello, my friends. I'm going to take my glasses off because holy glare. But today, not even gonna lie, this is not a fun video. I just really have been thinking, first of all, trigger warning for this entire thing. You're gonna see why. I'm sure you read the title. This is one of those things that you kind of don't really ever stop thinking about, and then sometimes it just kind of like hits you and you're like, oh yeah, I feel like I should definitely like speak on this, not just for the sake of like speaking on it and venting, whatever, like I'm past that, but just, I guess, more than anything, frankly, to warn other people and other children of what to look for, because unfortunately, like, it can go very under the radar. And just gonna kind of touch on all of the emotions that are tied to this situation. I'm obviously going to tread very lightly. Maybe that's not obvious. Everyone's entitled to speak on this and deal with it in their own way, but for me personally, I know that there were a lot of people who have been affected way more than like, I'm this in comparison to what other people are going through, and I want to respect and honor that. Yeah, I'm gonna be stumbling over my words this whole time because it is very sensitive, and I know I'm gonna say some things that are probably like, oh, I shouldn't have said it that way. Just please bear with me. This is literally just one person's perspective, and unfortunately a lot of people have been affected by the experience that I'm going to share. So just to kind of, for some background, extremely long story short, somebody that I at one point really admired, and a lot of my peers admired this person as well. He is now a convicted pedophile, and I believe he's in prison. And this, needless to say, that's a rough pill to swallow, right? And it reminded me a lot of when, if you remember, like the Matt Lauer situation, when a lot of women came out about this news anchor, Matt Lauer, very, beloved guy to the public eye. A lot of women came out and spoke about the insane, disgusting things that he did to them. And a lot of his really close female coworkers came out on the record and they were like, this is just really sad because we didn't know that. We did not have that experience of him. Here we are living our day to day being like, oh yeah, that's the homie, love him, like great dude. And all this is happening behind the scenes, literally. And you don't know. And when you're that person and you find this out, it makes you feel like shit afterwards because there's so many emotions. You're like, I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to reflect back on these memories, like the good experiences that I had. Were they ever even that? Like, were those even real? Is that valid to think fondly back on this memory? Like, it brings a lot, it really does. And on top of that, just a crushing disappointment, because you always want to believe women, especially when it's a situation with an adult and children. You always want to believe the child, of course. Like, kids don't just make that stuff up. So it's just really freaking sad when you have to come to terms with that and you're like, damn, I didn't know that, but that was the reality for someone, and now I have to alter the way that I'm interacting with the situation, the way that I interact with my own memories, etc. Like, it goes really deep. And so I understand that that's confusing, and if you're in that position, like, it's okay. You're not a bad person for being like, well, I don't remember it that way. Like, your reality is your truth, and that is okay. But just, I think the respectful thing to do in those situations is to kind of just talk to someone you really trust and someone who can maybe understand that. But it's awkward. You want to be respectful to the victims, and that's just kind of where I'm at. That's why I haven't spoke on this entire time. And after this, I'm probably never going to talk about it again. This is literally for the youths and for other women, and not even women, just everybody to know. Basically, if you're ever in an uncomfortable situation, I want you to trust your gut and know, like, hey, actually, maybe this really isn't okay. So that's what this video is for. I I want to like shed light on all of, because there, like I said, like there's a lot of experiences and a lot of emotions that go into this sort of thing. But for me, now knowing what I know now, in retrospect, there were a lot of red flags. And that is what this video is for. Because had I seen this video years ago, like I want to say that instance where it got that far with one kid, it maybe would have never even gotten to that point. You know what I mean? If so many of us had been like, yeah, this was weird, we don't feel comfortable, that could have nipped it in the bud right there. And honestly, I do think about that. Not that I think it's any of our fault. Like we're kids, like, you know what I mean? Kids want to trust adults. That's what they're there for. When they abuse their power, it's never the child's fault. And so I'm really trying to like forgive myself for that, because I do feel like there were times when I knew things weren't right and I was just like, oh, like he's that teacher, you know what I mean? He's that teacher for a reason. And now we know that. So I'm gonna be just completely frank and honest about all of these things. So again, trigger warning, please. Like this, like I said, this isn't fun. It's not fun to rehash it, but I think it's literally necessary, and I'm okay to share it. So like it's fine, but just like buckle in. Some of the really big ones for me were the over friendliness, period. I'm really a firm believer. I'm 25 years old right now. There are certain things an adult just isn't going to go to a child for. And one of those things is intimate friendship. Of course, I'm also a teacher. So it does sometimes like there. But here's the thing, because I want to say there is a gray area, but there's not. It's very black and white, and that gray area, if it's gray, you just don't do it. That's kind of the rule of thumb for teaching. It's very like, sometimes a kid is having a bad day and you want to literally be like their mommy for these 8 hours and just be like, it's okay, and hold them and be close with them and like really check up on them. And like sometimes you could potentially have a certain bond with a student, but it's your job as the teacher to understand, this isn't my place. I'm just their teacher. They have their own parents. Like, it's okay. You need to be hands off. It's not appropriate to do certain things that you would do with, say, your niece or your nephew or your baby sister or your own child. There's certain lines that just are not meant to be crossed in a professional setting. Beyond that, there are certain lines that should absolutely never be crossed in any setting between an adult and a child. And anybody under the age of 18 is a child. I don't care if they're 17 3/4. I don't care if they have a driver's license. I don't care if they act like they're 30 years old, but they're actually 15. No, like it is on you as the adult and as the professional to know your boundaries, period. So adults know this. Children, understand this, and understand there's nothing you can do as a child to provoke an adult to do something they know they're not supposed to do. It's never your fault. It's never within your control. Like, you know, it's on us as adults to know to do the right thing. And unfortunately, some adults just don't hold themselves to those standards. So the super intimate friendships this is definitely a red flag looking back. And sure, there are some teachers who are cool, like a teacher who will be like, yeah, like, don't call me Mrs. Jones, call me Sarah. Like, I'm Sarah. Hey, you guys, like, what, like, you know, that's fine. But it's a big difference when you have a teacher, specifically a male teacher, but I'm gonna really try to keep this genderless, because this is how a lot of female creeps fly under the radar, because people aren't looking for female creeps, you know what I mean? So it can apply to anybody. But for me, this teacher specifically would say to the whole class, let's have a sleepover at my new house. I just moved. It'll be like y'all and me and my wife, and we're just gonna hang out. As a 25-year-old, that's disgusting. That's weird. That is strange. I don't care if your wife is there. I don't care if your daughter is there. I don't care if you invite your entire community of teenage girls to hang out to make us feel comfortable. You invited us into your home, and that's the part that's weird about it, period. I don't even care I don't care if you invite us there and then you leave the house and we're just there chilling amongst each other. You're still weird for having us in your house. Am I wrong? This is just my perspective. Anyway, so that was number one. Another one, if we ever needed to like change and we were going on, let's say, a field trip, he would encourage us to change on the bus.
Disgusting!
I know, dude, saying it. And this is the thing about when you're in a situation like this, it's embarrassing after the fact because you realize how trusting you were. It's almost like naivety. And it is a little bit cringy, I'm not gonna lie, but at the same time, we were children and he was an adult. Like, one of us is in the wrong here. So I'm just telling y'all what I experienced. And if an adult proposes these things to you, I want you to be like, yeah, no, I'm gonna go tell my parents. Like, that's disgusting. Like, I want you to be on that. My point is, if any of this happens, tell somebody that you trust, an adult who can do something. You tell your principal, you tell your mom and dad, you tell the police, I don't care. You tell somebody because you know that's not right. When you feel it in your heart, oh, this is kind of weird. You're right. You're right. You know what makes you uncomfortable. And if you're feeling it, I bet a whole bunch of other kids are feeling it too, right? Even if they're not, even if this teacher, this person you trust, whatever, is singling you out, you need to tell somebody because it's not okay. It's really not. And so anyway, I'm not looking, go ahead and change, all of you guys. That was weird. That was always weird. I don't really care any excuse you can make for it. That's weird and gross. And to be honest, had any of us gone to administration at our school and said that was even a thing, because we all thought it was just funny, you know, that's just him. He was just that teacher. Come to find out, yes, he is that teacher. He is, unfortunately. If we had ever brought this to any administration, this would have been handled years ago. Like, that's what really gets me, is that they're just the warning signs. Like, but anyway, that's why I'm here. Those were the big ones for me. Just it was really the emotional intimacy. Like, it's always nice to have a class at school, especially for me. This happened when I was in high school. So it's stressful. It is. You're thinking about college, you're thinking about your future, you're finally starting to feel responsibility as a person in this world. You know what I mean? And it's I just can't stop thinking, for someone to take advantage of people in such a vulnerable place in life is just so, like, there's obviously just so much to unpack there. But I don't know, like, as adults, we can go to therapy. Like, we can figure this out before you're doing criminal shit, before you're ruining the lives of children. You need to figure that out. You are an adult. Like, so anyway, just, I don't know. I just feel like there's a line. Like, when you're sitting in a classroom as if it's a therapy session, telling this male teacher who you've known for maybe a few months, that's like kind of like, I understand there's maybe you're meeting with the teacher during lunch because you're like, I'm really going through something, I need someone to talk to. That's beautiful. Like, I hope that you have a teacher who cares about you that much. That's great. But there is a line. It comes to a point where it's like, okay, if you're having lunch together every single day for the past 3 weeks, at that point, the teacher should know and be like, hey, maybe go eat with your friends today. That's okay. Like, I'm the teacher, you're the student, you have your own duties in this school, I have mine. It's okay. We don't need to be talking every day like we're besties, And that's very real. And I want to paint the picture of you guys in a realistic way so you can see the difference. For me, when I was student teaching, I had this one student who, she was like the problem child of the class, but I never believe that. When there's like the problematic kid, I'm like, no, I want to see them for myself. Because every time there's a problem child, it's really just they have one thing that frustrates the adults, and the adults don't want to to work on that with them. Do you know what I mean? It's usually that. So I'm like, okay, like, let me see what this kid actually needs so I could try to help her out. And she became really attached to me. And there's a number of reasons why a child might become strangely attached to an adult. And again, they're babies. Like, children are hardwired to trust their adults. They're defenseless, you know what I mean? And so I completely understand why this little girl, she would just kind of look at me like I was like her big sister. And that is there's such an honor that comes with that. And it's really undescribable for a child to trust you. However, and this is where I'm being an adult and a professional about it, she is not my sister. You know, God just didn't create us that way. Sorry. I'm her teacher. She's my student. And I had to make that really clear to her, because at one point she was just acting in a way you shouldn't act at school. Like, she would always try to be hugging me, or like if I'm reading a book to the class, she'd be like, oh, I want to sit on your lap. Like, no, you know, and these were third graders. And so for me in that instance, I had to draw the line, and I had a very serious conversation with her one time where I was like, love you, care about you. I'm so happy that you're my student. I'm glad we can be friends. But at the end of the day, I'm your teacher. I'm not your mom. I'm not your sister. I'm your teacher, and we have to draw this boundary. We can't be hugging each other all the time. Like, it's just not okay. It's weird. I said this in her, little kid language, but I wanted her to understand, like, you can't just be acting like that with every teacher, because there are people in this world, God forbid, I hope this never happens to her, but potentially some teacher could take advantage of that. They really could. Or not even a teacher, just any adult. I don't know if she acts that way with like her babysitter. That's behind closed doors. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I want to make that very clear for kids. Like, I can be your favorite teacher, you could be my favorite student, whatever, but we are teacher and student. We're not besties, we're not sisters, we're not, none of that. That's it. It's really that simple. Keep it professional. Keep it cute. Like, so understand the difference of that. If you're that kid and I've been there too. Like, dude, I get it. I really get it. Sometimes you don't have a lot of friends. Sometimes you're lost. Sometimes you're the new kid. Sometimes you're getting bullied. Like, stuff happens where you seek out adult help, especially when you have a teacher who's always checking for you and really nice. I completely understand being like, yeah, I want to be like your little buddy, like, for sure. But just as the student and as the younger person, as the child, I also want you to understand that there is a certain line that will be drawn if you have a responsible, professional, and respectful adult that you're confiding in. They will eventually have to draw a line with you because of just the nature of the professional circumstance. And if they don't, that's scary. That's when you need to start paying attention and being like, hey, maybe this isn't okay. Okay, like, just know that. Those are really the big ones for me. Just listen to your gut. Know that you shouldn't be ever getting that close with an adult in a professional setting. And I don't want you to think this is only about like school situations or work or anything, because it can be anywhere. This can be your uncle, you know what I mean? And in that case, he doesn't have to hold himself to a professional standard, but he does have to have a moral code as an adult in this world dealing with a child. And that's just what it comes down to. So I guess my story on this is just that there were a number of times when I was uncomfortable and I didn't say anything because I don't know. And honestly, it doesn't matter. I could dig deep all day and tell you why I forced myself to act like that was okay. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It wasn't okay, and I knew that. And things could have potentially gotten really, really bad for me. And I don't know, you need to know. I think the only responsibility that the child has in this situation is knowing when to tell an adult that you trust that you're not comfortable anymore. And it's okay. And it's like I said in the beginning, I'm like, it's embarrassing to recall it, but there's no reason to be embarrassed. It's not your fault. You know what I mean? there's one responsible party in this situation, and that's the adult. That's not you. So, you know, if you, because for me, because this, I'm going to tell you this. There was maybe once or twice when I told my mom, hey, he said this. Thoughts? Like, or I would just tell her, I would kind of pass it off as like a joke and be like, oh, like, we're such a close-knit group. We did this. And she would be like, what? Like, concerned right off the bat, as she should be, because she's an adult and she knows that's weird and gross. And just literally little things like, oh, come over, we're gonna have a sleepover. I would tell her that. Or like, oh, everybody, like, I'm sitting at the front of the bus closing my eyes, everybody behind me change, things like that. And I thought it was just like funny, but deep down I was uncomfortable. And my mom never thought it was funny. She was like, that's a grown man. I'm not understanding the joke or how that's a joke. I'm concerned. Like, should I call him, or like, should I tell your principal? Like, do you want me to remove you from that class? Like, she was not playing. And I was always like, it's fine. And eventually I stopped telling her because I knew the situation wasn't right. And I knew eventually she was going to handle it as she should have. And I didn't want her to. And shout out to my mom, because that's exactly what a parent should do. And I am like, I really regret not being honest, because children were hurt by this man. I was already an adult living my life, and there was kids literally going through it the same way I did, and I didn't say anything. So this isn't about me, and I want you to understand that, because like I said, I wasn't the one who was hurt in this situation, straight up. I'm really, 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 really sorry to the people that he actually hurt. There might be some who never even talked about it, never reported it, you know? I'm sorry to the people who shared that experience with me of really admiring this man and being let down again. And I stand in solidarity with all of you guys, like all of my former classmates. Like, if you know, you know. And I know y'all, like, you know what I mean? I know the ones who this is like really, I know. If you knew him, you know exactly the vibe and the memories that are now tarnished and lost because of his irresponsible and disgusting, abhorrent actions. I'm sorry to his family. I'm sorry to his children and his wife. Like, there are many broken pieces in this situation in ways that I even still can't understand, in ways that I am never going to see. But I know that this is now the reality for so many families. And I want to send my love to you guys, because y'all are the ones who are really affected by this. And I'm just so sorry. Kids, if you're watching this channel, remember, always tell a responsible adult what's happening. Remember, an adult man is never going to ask a little girl for help with anything. I don't care. He's not going to, girl. He's not. And another thing, just like a man isn't going to ask you for help, he's not going to ask you to keep a secret either. If an adult is asking you as a child to keep a secret, that's just one of those things. We adults, we know you're not supposed to do that. You don't do that. You don't need to do that. If that's happening, it's a bad situation, and you need to tell somebody, okay? I just want y'all to find one person, even if it's not an adult, even if it's just like your best friend in class, like tell anybody. Just never keep those uncomfortable feelings a secret. You don't know who you could be helping or saving by sharing your feelings, you know? Remember me in those situations when I was in high school and I was like, this is weird, but I don't want to tell my mom. I don't want her to get worried. She's getting worried because she loves you, because she cares about you, and she wants you to not be emotionally scarred, because adults have a lot of power to scar children, unfortunately. And any adult who loves you and cares about you and respects you, they want to prevent that, okay? So if an adult is telling you to keep a secret for them or with them, tell somebody that's a bad situation, okay? If an adult is asking you for help, oh, one-on-one, hey, come here, I need your help. Go, can you look inside my car? Like, whatever, like, you know, stranger danger. I don't care if it's, hey, hang out with me during lunch, I'm going through something. Why is a 40-year-old man telling a 15-year-old girl about what he's going through? Ew. Like, you know, just, if it feels wrong in your heart, in your soul, it is, and it's okay. I know you don't want to get your favorite teacher in trouble. Like, I seriously get it. But sometimes, like, people need to face the consequences of their actions. And when you're an adult, you'll understand how necessary that was for them to face those consequences. Because, again, it was never okay. Okay? I'm sending all of you guys my love, healing energy. Comment, message me, whatever, if you ever want to talk. Like, I'm so serious. I understand it's a lot to deal with on your own. So I'm here for anybody that wants to talk about it. Even if I don't know you, if you didn't go through this situation and you have your own thing, like, still, we can, like, I'm here if you need anything. It's hard out here, y'all. Yes, on that note, I will see you guys very, very soon with a good vibes video. I love you all. I will make a safety video as well. These things are so necessary, unfortunately. In this world, we need all the safety tips we can get. So I'll see you guys next time. Peace and love.